Socket.io is a piece of middleware that makes it easy to build real-time applications. Now, it works really well with Express. And there are two different parts to Socket.io, the server and the client. So whenever we build an application, there's going to be two pieces that we need to worry about. One that will run in our Express.js server, and another part which will run in the regular JavaScript that goes in our client. So first, you're going to need to call the server component with a require statement, just like you do with any other piece of middleware. And that means you'll need to install it as a dependency of your project, like we've been doing with the npm install command. In addition to that, you'll need to also install another script, the client-side script, that you'll have to add to your pages. Now, Socket.io provides a link you can use, which will make this a lot easier. Once you set everything up, your app will be able to track events, and your browser will also be able to detect connections. So you'll be able to communicate between the server and the client pretty easily and let other clients know that there is a connection with another user. It's actually pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and take care of it. All right, so first up, I need to make sure that I install Socket.io. So I'm going to go over to my terminal. Let's go ahead and hit Control-C to stop the application from running. And I'm just going to clear things out. And I can do an npm install. And I want to save it as a dependency of the project so that it will be added into my package.json file. So I'll do a -- save. And then I will put in here socket.io. If you're in a Mac, you may need to add the sudo command at the beginning, depending on your permissions. All right, once that's done, we can go ahead and clear this out and restart our server with npm start. It'll run our automation and wait for connections. So I'm going to go ahead and hide this automation for right now, and I'll switch back into my editor to start working on my project. Now, I'm going to need to go into the app.js file, and just like with any other middleware, I need to go ahead and do a require statement. So we'll do a var io and require socket.io. And with socket.io, we'll need to add another parentheses. This is where you would pass options to socket.io. The defaults are just fine for us, so I'm going to leave that blank. Now, we need to connect our server to socket.io. So I'm going to scroll all the way down. This is where we create the server. And so right down here, I'm going to say io.attach, and then we'll attach our server, and hit a semicolon there. And now our two pieces of middleware are connected to each other, and we can start detecting events. So to detect an event, we use the on method of the object. So we'll say on, and then we want to detect a connection. So whenever somebody connects to our application, say a new user coming in with a new browser, we want to do the following. So this function is going to pass along information about the connection in a variable that we're going to call socket. So here we could just say something like console log, and then just say user connected. And we could do a number of other detections. So once we detect the connection, we can detect for other events, say within the socket. So we could say something like socket.on and then disconnect, and then do the same thing, call a function literal here, and then do something when somebody disconnects, which we could say console log user disconnected. But we don't really need to do this. We can also, of course, detect other methods. We can even create our own events and then let any users that are connected to our server know about those events. But before we can do any of that, we're going to need to actually plug into the scripts. So right here in the chat.js file, we need to initialize our scripts. And we also need to go into our JS default files where we load up all of our scripts and then add a piece of script that is essentially Socket.io's client-side script. So to do that, I'm going to go to the Socket.io website. So from the Socket.io website, which is at socket.io, I'm going to click on this download link. You can see that you can get the client software just by using their CDN, which is the easiest way to install things. So I'm going to copy that link, and I'll switch back over here. And I want to make sure I load that before my chat.js script. So once I do that, I'm going to save this. And then I'll switch over to my chat.js file. And at the very top, I want to go ahead and create a variable. I'll call it socket and go ahead and call the IO object. So this is going to load all of the methods into this socket variable. So once I do that, I can start detecting any kind of events. And the first thing I want to do is make sure that I detect a connection. So what I'll do is say socket.on connect, and then execute a function here. Again, another function literal. And what I'm going to do is actually put almost the entire script in there to make sure that all of this executes only if there's a connection that has taken place. So I'm going to move this chat form thing in here, and let me move sort of the rest of this stuff. Like if chat form, if I want to, I can leave that show message out there because it's sort of a separate function. And then let's go ahead and put that in here. And now this stuff will be executed only if there's a connection available. So let's go ahead and test this out. I think I have enough for this to be working just with the default sort of browser messages. So let's go ahead and switch back over into our application. And I'm going to refresh my page. And then I'm going to check my terminal, which should show some connections. So it would be nice to see this side by side. So I'm going to sort of make my window here smaller so that you could see that as I refresh the page, it will detect a user disconnecting. You have started to refresh the page, and then another user connecting as well. So if I open up another tab here and I go to localhost 3000, I can see that there should be another user connecting to my application. So even though we're in the homepage, the users are connecting. And as I navigate, you can see some additional disconnections and connections. So that is working pretty well, which means we can do more interesting things. You don't always need to sort of log things to the console as users connect and disconnect. But let's go ahead and make some other interesting things. So how do you actually communicate in between different browsers that are connected? To do that, you can actually emit your own set of events. And that set of events can do whatever you want. So instead of displaying a message like we've done before right here, I'm going to emit a new command to any browsers that are connected to this machine. So I'm going to say socket.emit, and this will be a event that I'm going to call post message. So in this machine, I want to tell anything that is connected to this server that a post message event is happening. And in that post message event, I'm going to pass along some data, which is going to be the same thing. I'm going to pass my username and my message, just as if I was sending that message into my browser. But now it's not going to do that because I deleted sort of the thing that was sending it to the message. So now that I've emitted that message, it means that I can also detect that message. But to do that, we need to go back into the server and have the server detect that this post message event happened. So let's go into app.js. So what I can do is actually detect this message in my server whenever my application or one of my clients emits a post message. Then I can execute a function. And in my application itself, right, so I do want to add data right here. And also now I'm going to emit another custom message. So this actually has to be done on the IO object. So we'll issue an emit update messages, and we'll pass along the data as well. So this is just like any other event that would happen on this application, but we're going to cause it to take place by emitting it from within this app.js. So once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to chat.js. And now I can capture that event in my chat.js file. So to do that, I need to create an on event. And I'm going to need to place this one outside this add event listener here. And I actually want it right outside this function. Probably be a good idea to sort of comment these. So we'll place it right outside here, and we'll trap that event with a socket.on update messages, and that will execute a function, pass along some data. And this is going to execute my show message function and pass along that data. So let's go ahead and delete some of these spaces just to make it seem a little bit cleaner. And add some comments. So what's going to happen here is when somebody posts into our form, then we are going to emit this message. And the reason we're emitting this message and not just sort of processing the username and the message is because we want to pass that message along to any other connected users. My main application will capture that post message event and issue a message to all of the connected devices, including the one that I am currently using. And once that happens, then my show message function will take place and it will display everything to the screen. So let me go ahead and save both of these. Let's go ahead and save this one and the other one. And we'll switch back to our application. Once everything finishes reloading, we can see that if we type in a message, you can see the message. And I'm going to go ahead and open up another window. And we'll go to the same URL. So let's put these side by side. We'll go to the chat route. So we have two sort of users chatting right now. And you can see that when I type something in here, the other window displays that as well. And now I can say, hello, Bob. And Bob will receive the message. It's a little confusing because everything is the same color, but we can fix that pretty easily. So let me go back into my application. And what I want to do is in Chat.js, here's where I actually define the text color by adding a class name. I have another class name for a different color. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to compare if the current user, so let's go ahead and do that. So if chat username is, and of course it's the value of the username field, is same as the data username, then I can display the message one way, which would be with this blue sort of symbol. Otherwise, then I'll do the same thing. And this time I'm going to do BG info, and let's try text warning and chat text. So let's go ahead and save that. And actually, there's another thing that I need to fix. This chat username is outside of the scope of this function. So you could see that I actually put these inside this if statement, and that is inside this on connect. So I'm just going to take those out of here. It'll be easier if I just ask for them out here. And I'll save these and go back into our app. Everything should be reloaded. Let's try it again. So we get two messages. You can see that on my screen, this one is green because it's mine, and this one on this screen is blue because it's not this user's. So let's do Bob. And then when I put a message here, the opposite happens because anything I type here is going to appear green to me, and anything somebody else types, as far as I'm concerned, will appear blue. So that's Socket.io. It gives you a whole new set of events that you can use to handle real-time communications in any of your web applications.